Okay, so last night was a big night for the UFC. They had Robert Whittaker fighting Jared Cannonier, and they also had in the main card Khabib Nurmagomedov going up against Justin Gaethje. And Gaethje, being the interim lightweight champion, wearing his interim belt, walking in with a swagger and a style that a lot of people were saying could potentially give Khabib his first and only loss. He looked good. Justin Gaethje walked in. He looked solid. He looked strong. He looked confident. He was ready for a fight. He was ready to take it to Khabib. And Khabib walked in, and things felt different. I think knowing a little bit of background about the fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov, 28-0, 13-0, or 12-0 rather in the UFC, just the best of the best fighters today. He put Conor McGregor in his place. He's become wildly popular worldwide. Khabib, Dana was rattling off some statistics at a press conference the other day, and Dana said that Khabib is the most played player on the UFC 4 video game, which came out this fall. He's the most searched UFC fighter, and on all these other metrics and things that just show how popular and prevalent Khabib is. And the significance of that is enormous, and it speaks volumes to the progression and evolution of the UFC. Because for the UFC and mixed martial arts in general, there's definitely a connotation that isn't the best. You look at the early marketing for the UFC and a lot of these other mixed martial art promotions, and they were advertising violence, and there will be blood in the cage, and somebody could die, and that led to John McCain having his campaign where he was saying it's human cockfighting, and that's stuck in a lot of people's minds up to now. My dad even still says that when he talks about the UFC and some other mixed martial art communities, and it's just it's an image that the UFC and every other MMA organization have tried extremely hard to get away from. And with stars like Khabib taking that spot on the pedestal as the most revered, the most respected, the most well-known mixed martial arts fighter, that shows something, because Khabib isn't someone that's going to go out and actively stoke embers and grab audiences and say I want this person, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then say some yo mama jokes and trash talk him a little bit. He's not going to do that. He's going to be very respectful. He's going to be the ultimate professional, and he's going to say, I'm going to beat you. We're going to go into the cage and I'm going to beat you. That's all there is to it. And it's a matter of pride and business and this old-fashioned respect that we don't really see in athletes in sport anymore. You have to, when you're talking about NFL players or NHL guys or really any professional sport, you say, well, he's only been arrested like one or two times. A lot of these athletes have been through some there've been some legal repercussions to some of their actions off of their respective sporting arena. And for Khabib, there's none of that. There's no, he's a great fighter, and yeah, he's had some instances off, his respective area where he's done this or this. No, he's very, very respectful. He's devoutly religious. He's a family man. He's married with children, and he also he has a great relationship with his father that was very, very well documented. His father was a great trainer of mixed martial art athletes and wrestlers, and just in a huge, impactful and strong presence in the mixed martial arts community globally. And he passed after his catching of coronavirus, and he died to the illness. And I could not imagine what that pain must be for Khabib. But Khabib went into this fight, and again, when he was walking into that cage, there was a different air. There was a different presence from Khabib. There was a sense of mourning and deep, not anger, but hurt. And he wasn't going to take this anger out on Gaethje, but he was going to use it to power his performance. And it came out afterwards, after the fight, where he handedly dominated Justin Gaethje, that Khabib actually had broken bones in one of his foot. He had two broken toes and a bone in his foot that had been broken. And he hopped around the octagon like nothing had happened. Like he was fine. Like there was no injury. And that's just a testament to the willpower of this man, to the power of this this great athlete's devotion to not only his sport, to his reputation, but to his family and to his legacy. And I think the fact that a character such as himself, who doesn't have to have glitz and glamour surrounding him or big ostentatious statements, it goes to show that people are caring more about the substance of the sport, and that the UFC really is finding its footing in the mainstream, and that mixed martial arts itself is becoming a more mainstream thing. You know, I was watching a UT football game this past weekend, and you know, it was not the prettiest affair, but I was talking to someone there, and we had this whole 15-minute long discussion about UFC, about mixed martial arts, about combat sports in general. And it used to be a taboo thing if you talked about anything more than boxing. You know, even then it would be it was almost a heathen endeavor to watch it or participate in it. But now, as it becomes more mainstream and acceptable, you're seeing it grab footing in casual conversation, where you're sitting down watching a football game. It's just like, oh, how about the UFC? You know, this fight between blah 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 and blah blah blah, and it just goes on from there. So the point of this whole rambling thing is that it's very intriguing to see people gravitate more towards people like Khabib than his former opponent, Conor McGregor, because Conor McGregor is definitely tied to that glitz and glamour and the old intrigue of fighting, of like, oh, this loudmouth guy is trash talking, he's doing crazy things in the cage, and he's just, whoa, insane. You know, that's definitely tied more closely to the former marketing of, you know, this is a bloody sport, this is a hard sport, and it's dangerous, you know. Whereas Khabib, it's emphasizing the best martial artists in the world coming together with their respective knowledge of their honed crafts and seeing who's the best, you know. Bruce Lee is often cited as a founding member of, you know, UFC, because he took and combined a lot of things and made, you know, fighting really popular on the mainstream with his movies and with media he was in. And his legacy continues to promote that, and he's still a very relevant and prevalent name. And to see people gravitate more towards Khabib and that substance and that character and that respectability tells so much about the sport, that we no longer need a spectacle like Conor McGregor. We no longer need people that are going to come in and have shady track records outside of the octagon, you know, that have some serious character flaws and have done some questionable things. We don't need that. We don't need that level of intrigue, you know, from just the spectacle. We have substance, and we have a fan base that wants to see the fights of those people who are characters of substance and great fighters who can come together and clash without all of the minutia of, oh, they did a hit and run, or, oh, you know, they assaulted someone, or so on and so forth, you know, free of all that controversy. And that just lends itself to the credibility of the sport. And it's very interesting to see how the UFC will go from this, because who is going to be the next athlete that they can get behind, that can really galvanize their respective platform? Because, you know, Khabib came onto his own. You know, few people had heard of Khabib before Conor McGregor, and then he handedly beats Conor McGregor, and then he's just, who is this guy? He's this enigma. You know, I mean, he's been there the whole time, right under our noses, but we had no idea. We had no idea. So we research, we learn, and we see the kind of person he is, the character of the man. And now, with Khabib having retired, saying that this was my last fight, that, you know, my coming into this octagon without my father, this was, I promised my mother this would be my last fight. She did not want me even in here for this fight. And if I make a promise, I keep my word. He's, again, man of character. He's going to keep his word. He's not going to enter back into that octagon as a fighter. And that's a very, very sad thing, not only for a fan, but also obviously for the UFC as well, because now that, again, they have to fill that hole. And who are they going to choose out of their swath of people? Who are they going to choose? And it's a very intriguing question, because are they going to go back to the Conor McGregors? You know, are they going to go back to the people with shadier track records? And I don't think they will. I think the UFC is really trying to distance themselves from marketing the spectacle, and they're trying to build up a legitimacy of the sport, which the legitimacy is certainly there, but among the mass groupings of people. Because, you know, there's a lot of people that don't like football, but they know about football. There are not a lot of people that don't like UFC but know about UFC or mixed martial arts in general. And what UFC and other mixed martial art organizations are obviously trying to do is to combat that, is to take away the stigma, to take away the perception that this is blood sport, that this is, someone could die in the cage, like the early marketing campaigns did. And so far, it's in the early 2010s, it was one step forward, two steps back, with a lot of people coming out with performance-enhancing drug scandals, and again, a lot of individuals having some incidences outside of the octagon that were not good. John Jones with his hit and run, Conor McGregor with multiple assault allegations, not just physical altercations with individuals, but also a sexual assault allegation that's come out this past summer in France. And there was one prior to that as well, which I'm not privy to the knowledge right off of the back of my hand, but there was one before that too. And it's just a character like that. It wouldn't behoove the UFC or any mixed martial arts organization to get behind them and fully market them and say that this is our image, this is who we want to be associated with. Because for the UFC at first, it was very helpful to them. They ascended in terms of relevance because Conor McGregor was this shooting star, this rocket, just going. And then, he had some personal issues outside the cage. He did that super fight with Floyd Mayweather, which God knows what that was about. Just making money, honestly. But it's just, you can't, if you want to grow the sport and you want to have a healthy following of people, you can't have characters like Conor McGregor running the show like they used to. Khabib Nurmagomedov proved in this past year and a half, 2 years, that the spectacle doesn't have to be from wild antics. It can be generated by being yourself, being a good human being, being a respectable human being, and just being the ultimate professional at your craft and being incredible at it. And that's what he did time and time again. He went into the octagon and he gave his best performance in a respectful manner, in a well-prepared manner, and again, in a professional manner. I can't emphasize that enough, in a very, very professional manner. And that is something that the UFC has been craving and yearning for and looking for, is that ultimate legitimacy of athletes that the public can look to and say, wow, this is a good person. This is also a great fighter. And this is, honestly, I want to learn more about them. And then by learning more about them, there's greater intrigue in what they do. And then they're fighting, and then fighting in general. And then, boom, you're hooked on the subject matter. That's what happened with me in researching some Polish fighters, and it got me interested in mixed martial arts, and then UFC, and then watching the fights, and then playing the video game, and all that stuff. And it's a very interesting dichotomy. But also, again, at this juncture in time, the UFC is going to be looking for more people like Khabib, more people who add that legitimacy, more people that add that level of respect to the sport and to their respective industry of promoting mixed martial arts fights. And it's interesting to see where it goes from here, but with the relevance and the talking points always being centered around mixed martial arts now, and a lot of famous people having, almost come out and saying that, yeah, I love UFC or I love mixed martial arts. Robert Downey Jr., for instance. It's definitely gaining even more traction, just continues to grow. And the future looks bright for the UFC. Even without Khabib, they're going to be moving forward, and they don't have to do it with people like Conor McGregor anymore. They don't have to do it with people that are shady. The UFC is embarking on a great new path, and it is thanks to a large part to Khabib Nurmagomedov. And his retirement, again, poses some steep obstacles, but at the end of the day, they're going to find someone else. They're going to find, hopefully, a lot of other people. And once they have found those people, they will continue to progress forward. They will continue to get a greater fan base. And someday, it could be the most watched sport.